This is a review of Survivor Season 28, Cagayan, Episode 11, Havoc to Wreak. Huge episode at the Final Six. Richie, how does it feel to be at the Final Six here?
Dude,
Strong
good.
six. Pretty strong six.
Yeah,
I
been a
mean,
good season.
been a good season. Strong six here. Havoc to Wreak. We're going to rename the episode. We're going to talk about who stocks up, who stocks down. We're going to do a Survivor press conference, all that and more. But into the episode... man, this episode starts off pretty feisty with Cass, and that kind of sets the tone for what the rest of the episode's going to be like. What did you make? Because she's kind of been quiet. This was the Cass I was waiting on, and I thought it was going to come a little sooner. I forgot about it. It snuck up on me. And how did you react to it?
She was super hot coming out the merge, and then after she made the transition over to the other side, just kind of hasn't done much. And I remember even last week I kind of was wondering if she thought she hadn't been doing any moves, and I mean, comes out hot, and this whole episode is kind of just like her versus Tony back and forth.
Yeah, and yeah, it plays out. It ends up playing out pretty odd and left me with my head scratching. But it's like she calls Tony a mafia king, and then they go back and forth about the vote right away at the top. And it's just clear that she is just. It really is just Tony and her talking right there at the beginning. And getting rid of Jeffra. Like Trish came back to camp and was like, "Yeah, no, I get it, Tony. I get why you didn't tell us." But Cass, even said the like, "Fool me once, shame on you," all that, whatever. But yet they're still going.
That's because she's actually trying to play the game too.
Yeah,
Trish isn't trying to play the game at all. So
yeah, Trish not trying to play the game, and it's crazy to watch because then you do get people like Cass and like Spencer and like Tony who are playing so hard, and it's what makes it a great season.
Yeah.
But it is funny that we got some people that are just some soft players, and I wonder if in retrospect they saw that too, or if they just thought, oh no, this is an alliance, this is what you do.
And you got to feel good if you're Spencer and Tosh right now, just coming back from Tribal and hearing the riff between Tony and Cass. 100%. Any sort of riff, I feel like when you're on the bottom is great news.
That's all you're hoping for, and then it continues the next morning where. It actually starts with Tony talking about how many times he's been shot, which is a funny little a little scene that I forgot about that I was glad to get. Like, and Spencer just being like, "You're sick, man. You're a madman," because he's like talking.
Well, he
about,
says he never gets nervous.
Yeah, he never gets nervous.
He's like, even if you're getting shot at, nah, man, I don't get nervous.
He's like, you just blah, blah, blah. I was like, Tony, you're a madman. Like, and Spencer is reacting again, just like all of us. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, not even hyping it up or anything, or eating out of his hand, just being like, dude, you're insane. But while this conversation goes down, Tony very briefly mentions that Cass has stayed asleep for a little longer than she normally does. That's it, right? That's
all he says, yeah.
That's really all he says. But then we get the point of view from inside the little shack, their shelter. And Cass, whether she thinks she hears it or she sees this as a chance to, get the fire started under Tony, she tells the girls that Tony's talking smack. And they kind of buy it right away.
Yeah.
And I remember I was watching, I was like, dude, did I miss it? I don't know that he said that. But she's like, you called me a bit. Like, what? Is that do you think that was like she actually maybe heard that or just heard her name once and just immediately went negative? And I'm going to try to.
I think she just heard her name and just kind of put two and two together and put the rest of it in her head. I think it's funny because she calls Tony like crazy for not remembering what he said, but at the same time, she's not remembering what he said at all. All she heard was her name and just assumed the worst.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And like the best part is like Tony goes to try to squash it, which is a great move by Tony. At this point in the game, you don't want to rattle anyone's feelings. And he's done a good job of blindsiding his own alliance and then coming back being like, hey, and getting their trust back. And it's a really great thing to have in your arsenal in Survivor to be able to convince people that like, oh, my blind side, even though it was great for me, it's okay. You're all right. Like he's insane. And like at one point it cuts to Spencer and Spencer's like, this guy's been lying a lot, but he's finally telling the truth now, I think. And no one believes him. And it's just this weird flip of like, dang, dude. When Tony's like, and you could feel Tony being like, dude, wait, I really didn't talk bad about you right there. Like stressful situation. And then it continues to get snappy and they go back and forth and Cass is like almost like poking at him hard. And is like telling him he's going to self-destruct. And he says, like, I never self-destruct. What he says, my honey. And they're just poking, and everyone else is just kind of sitting back watching, going like, "This is
Yeah.
great." Yeah,
Then too, I mean, like, she tells him, I mean, hopefully in these next 2 months before you turn 40, you grow up a little bit.
yeah, dude, some intense
That was
stuff.
a good
Yeah, he
line.
says, "How old are you?"
Yeah.
40. He's like, "Well, you're like a 4-year old," and like, I don't know, man. It might be a little.
Which, to be fair, I mean, he is kind of like throwing a temper tantrum. She's just trying to have a conversation.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, it's funny their relationship back and forth because like you do feel though for Tony though that like dude he didn't say that, but also you
Definitely.
you respect Cass as like I'm standing up to this guy because we're all sitting
Yeah.
here watching this guy beat up on everybody and them not really know it, and for Cass to be like, dude, I got to play this game, whether yeah she means it or not, like this is the Cass I've been waiting on, and
And I think especially once he brought up the, like, put my name down, vote me out, then you'll go
yeah,
home.
yeah.
I think that's kind of what like sent her over the edge too. Which, I mean, to be fair, that'd probably do that to most people.
Yeah, dude, and I really like felt him in his intimidation of being like, "No, I have an idol. I'm good. Like, it's not going to happen.
hmm
You are going home." Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was just so pointed. And then he even actually reveals his special idol in that moment too,
hmm
which everyone really still can't make up. Like, well, what does that even mean? And
Yeah.
yeah, that's one thing. Do we see it play out? Do we not? Is just having it enough,
hmm
and being able to say you have it. But it's great because we moved to the reward challenge, and they're on different teams, which the producers either made that happen or they were like, "Thank God that these two are not
Yeah.
on the same team," because and they get separated after the challenge. But I'll get into that in a second. But the reward challenge is taking the sandbags, throwing it at blocks, rebuilding it
hmm
on the other side with the remaining blocks left. I imagine this the hardest part about this is just there's so many blocks, and he's just one
Yeah.
person building and throwing at
hmm
first. You could tell they just tried tossing and it wasn't going. And I feel like throwing of the full windup it would gas you out way more at day 30
Yeah.
because it starts at
Don't
day
have the power for sure.
like it would gas you out, and yeah, you wouldn't have the power. So this looked like way harder than it was. Um, and yeah, who is it? It's Tony Tosh and Trish for Spencer, Cass, and Woo.
hmm
Come from behind on the puzzle.
Yeah.
For Spencer and the gang. Spencer, Cass, Woo win, and they get a great reward. This is one again we talk about a lot of. Like they used to do stuff like this more, and this one actually
hmm
wasn't. I mean, this was very cool. They got to go to a school and hand out, backpacks and recess supplies and spend time with the kiddos and whatnot in the Philippines, which is sick. We talk like that doesn't happen anymore with new
Yeah.
Survivor, which this is one of the beautiful, great things about old Survivor that I wish could come back. Whether it was they'd go into a village or they'd go through like a market or whatever. These
Because you could tell
rewards,
they appreciate doing those ones too. Like it feels good. I feel like for them,
yeah.
and I mean you get to see people that you haven't seen in
hmm
30 days. I mean just different people than the same faces.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. And like, yeah, you got it. And you will never interact with people like that ever again in your life. So it's like
Yeah.
to be able to be in that country and to get to take advantage of the people and interact with them and help out and whatever way. Like I even loved that Spencer was so honest to say that he doesn't like kids, but he was having fun. Cass had a great line. She's like, "Woo was so animated. He talked more to
hmm
these kids than he has at camp the whole time," which I think
Yeah.
is another like highlight. Like, wait, that's something. Like I don't think I
hmm
realized that he's that quiet.
Yeah.
Because usually
Doesn't do a
like
whole lot.
because I mean, sometimes if we don't see a lot of someone, I'm like maybe they just weren't that interesting, but they probably still talked a lot.
hmm
But he might have been someone that just is the quiet guy around camp, and he just
Yeah.
seems so high energy and big personality that he wouldn't be that way. But um, he's blessed with the kids, good with the kiddos. And then on this reward challenge, Cass and Spencer make a play, to Woo, and Woo doesn't have a good poker face because you could tell he
No,
was
dude.
very clearly
Yeah.
this is the hard part about Survivor is you have to lie almost at every point of the way to be able to get out of a situation like this. You got to be able to lie, even if you are so loyal to Tony. He's got to be able to say,
hmm
"Look, guys, I'm with you. Let's do it," to get their confidence up. The hesitancy, man, is just it's not good. They read it so well.
Oh yeah. Which is like funny because I felt like they read it, but they still kept talking to him about it.
Yeah, they kept pressing.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It seemed like a weird strategy to me.
Weird strategy. It made sense though. They want to split the idols, 2 on Trish,
Yeah.
2 on Tony. Um and which was a hefty ask to ask Wu, because Wu, of course, has been so close to Tony.
Hmm.
But that's what you have to make. What I was surprised of is that we actually just go right back to camp. That we didn't see Tony back at camp, scrambling or paranoid or anything like that.
Yeah.
Which I guess maybe he doesn't have to be when we all know he has 2 idols. There's no point wasting our
Hmm.
time
Yeah.
seeing him fight that off. But he comes back, and yeah, again, he like Wu lies to Tony, but it's just not believable. Even Tony doesn't buy it. Where he's like, "What are they talking about?" And they're like, "Oh, they want to get Tosh out." And Tony's like,
Yeah.
"What? Why would they want Tosh? Wouldn't they want me?" Like even Tony's like, "Yeah, you had to get
Hmm.
pitched something," and Wu just can't lie. And not even
That was
yeah.
so bad.
Yeah, or not, or dude, at that point, if you're that bad at lying, just come clean, just blow it all
Hmm.
up, because then you'll have Tony as an ally. He'll get mad at
Yeah.
Tosh and Spencer. Like your best bet in that situation is just tell Tony,
Hmm.
but instead he keeps to himself. I mean, Spencer had a good moment too in this one that bumps him up on my resume. He's like making fun of Wu. He's like when we are pitching him the story, he's just like, yeah, man, cool, yeah, cool. And I don't know, I just get a kick out of when these survivors imitate each other,
Hmm.
because
Yeah,
it's just
especially in
like,
a one like that too, where somebody hasn't been doing much the whole season. So
yeah,
any sort of little imitation you can get of them is going to be a good one.
yeah. I thought that was funny. And yeah, come back to lie, a pretty weak lie. We get to the immunity challenge. What do you make of this style of immunity challenge? They kind of do this like maybe at Final Four too a lot,
Yeah.
or Final Three, where you have to run into different huts and maybe get
Hmm.
numbers, and it's more spread out. It's not just on one pile. What do you make of it? How good do you think you would do on day 32?
That's the thing. I like these ones because I feel like at this point in the game, like these people are just depleted
Yeah.
physically, mentally. I mean, you have Trish running back at one point, and Jeff goes, he said, "Big effort by a woman who can barely move."
Dude, he's like, yeah,
I
she
was
has
like,
no muscle on her body. Like,
I was like, "Dang, Jeff's just going in on her."
so, yeah, that's a wild thing to say, Jeff.
But yeah, I think it would be pretty tough. I mean, because especially because you don't know which section you're off on the number by.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and then the running back and forth too, and like trying to
Hmm.
figure out, because right away at the beginning, it was like, hey, just count up 2 of them and try to remember that number, then get back. Don't try to do them all. But, yeah, I don't know. It took like a little over 30 minutes or around 30
Yeah.
minutes. But it's a good one where I just kept thinking like, oh, this person's going to win. They kept cutting in on
I
the
know.
handle and it was just stuck. So now this person's going to win.
Yeah.
And ended up being Spencer. Great victory. He falls on the ground like
Hmm.
LeBron James in 2016.
He
Just collapses. And
needed it too. So I mean,
yes, you feel that too. Him and Tosh, like they
yeah.
didn't say that, they didn't build that before to this, but you could tell both of them were like, dude, we
Hmm.
got to win. Spencer wins. It's amazing. And then there's a little moment here. Jeff says, Tasha, you were off by 1 bamboo.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. To point
That
that out,
would have
because
been
it
four in a row too.
would have been
Crazy.
4 in a row, going for a streak. Still, like, I mean, to this point, 3. We'll talk about it in a second, but the 3 immunity wins is
Hmm.
much bigger than I remembered. So that was cool. We get back to camp, and before the tide shifts, like Cass is calling Tony Russell, and it seems like Wu is down for the plan. And even I was like, oh, what? Wu is down for this plan?
Yeah.
And then you get that last second, you get a line from Cass that shifts the mood and actually makes a great point for the moment. Is she says no one ever gives the jerk the money, and it
Hmm.
causes her to change her mind and vote for Tony. What, or to side with Tony? What did you
Yeah.
make of that?
I mean, I thought it was a stupid move because I don't think he's really being a jerk. I think it's just in her mind that he's being a jerk.
Yeah, and if he is being a jerk, it's only to her. I don't know that he's
Yeah,
been
which
a
I
jerk
mean,
to
no one
everybody
else is
else.
going to care about.
Yeah. Yeah, he might have blindsided here or there, but the idea of like if he's Russell and he gets to the end and people feel like he backstabbed and he was
Hmm.
mean and he was ruthless, they won't give him the money. And to that point, I think she was right. Like I don't
Hmm.
think that was that crazy. As far as like villains who won, like there weren't many. Maybe Rob, you
Yeah.
could say, was a little like conniving, but he was
Hmm.
conniving in that season to Lex when he lied, but he ultimately didn't win that. He kind of won, but
Yeah.
yeah, won via marriage. But yeah, no, it was this the idea of the no one will give the jerk the money, so let me take Tony to the end. We get to tribal. It seems like maybe there's going to be a 2-2-2 split.
Hmm.
They read the votes, and Spencer and Tosh are left out in the cold. Spencer protected by his idol. No idol gets played. His immunity necklace, I should say.
Yeah.
And Tosh goes home.
Yeah. You got to feel bad. I mean, she was killing it,
Yeah.
racking up those immunity wins. I feel like if you do rack those up, though, and I mean, no matter what guy or girl, like if you're racking them up like that, that's a huge target.
Uh-huh. And she lasted 31, maybe
Hmm.
32 days in Survivor. Like, that's something to hang your hat on. And like, I mean, by the end of this, you'll be able to say you were in the season with, one of the greatest winners of all time
Yeah.
too. So like,
Hmm.
and I'm not sure if she returns. I meant to look that up.
She
But
does.
she does return.
Hmm.
Well, that's good, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because yeah, with stats like that, you're undeniable.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and she tried. She tried putting the energy on Tony, and it's so funny because everyone on their way out the door is trying to put energy on Tony to just
Hmm.
be like, dude, you guys see who's cooking all this up, right? Just want to,
Which
because
is smart. I mean, I do the same thing.
yeah, 100%. Even like Spencer did it, a couple tribals ago, and was just like,
Hmm.
he's doing it all. Like I don't know,
He
it's
says, if I
wild.
get out, I'm voting for Tony.
Yeah, he said it straight up. I don't know, yeah, why that doesn't happen more.
Hmm.
Pretty crazy, pretty crazy. Let's go into stock up, stock down.
Stock up once again, Tony. I mean, he's got two idols. I think he can only play one of them this round, anyways. So he's for sure going to the final four.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy to say Tony, but I think after this
Hmm.
episode, I do think it's Spencer in that, like,
Okay.
he is at a point now where, dude, just win the next one. If you win the next
Hmm.
one, I mean, then you imagine, then someone goes out and they have that four has to break, and then there's your chance. But because he won immunity here, and dude, man, I didn't realize he's on almost every reward too. He
Yeah,
is,
he's won a lot.
he's winning, like, he is a yeah, he's a winner. He's a great player. I think his stock is up here, and he would be one if he makes it to the end right now. I think the jury would actually vote Spencer to win it, just
Yeah, that's true.
because of he's outlasted and all this stuff. So I think
Hmm.
Spencer right now is in a fantastic position. Of course, I mean with Tony, we could have the conversation next week too, because if he has two idols, can only play one, and next week is the last week to do it. If you go home, if you don't end up using an idol, is that like we could talk about it next week? But if you don't end up using an idol, should that count against you? You know what I mean? Like to
Yeah,
me,
I
an
see what you're
idol,
saying.
like because even like you should be like, I'm gonna lose this idol, I'm gonna play it on someone, and maybe it'll
For
bounce the
somebody,
vote. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Like use it effectively. It needs to be used
Yeah.
effectively for it to matter. Maybe more. Finding it, of
Hmm.
course, is amazing. But using it and using it effectively, I think, is another thing. But I like where Spencer's at. Um, stock up, stock
Okay.
down, stock down. I'm going woo, 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 woo,
Hmm.
woo.
That's fair.
For all the reasons we said, I mean, he was great with the kiddos, and he was some sick acrobatic moves and karate or whatever. But yeah, just his inability to lie and hearing that he was so quiet. Um, and yeah, he's kind of not in these immunity challenges either. He's not really he
Yeah.
seems like the athletic type that would be, but he hasn't been. So I'm gonna go Woo. Woo missed his shot too to shake up the game.
I see where you're coming with like Spencer being your stock up. I also went with him stock down though.
Mm,
Just because you said if he wins he's in a great position, I feel like if he doesn't win, he goes home.
right. That's true.
So,
That's true. That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah, I think, but like you kind of want that, it's in your court. You're
Yeah.
in
Oh,
control.
definitely.
Like
And I
it's
feel like all the other guys left know that like if he goes to the end, he'll probably win it just cuz he kind of came from the bottom the entire
yeah,
game, has won a good amount,
yeah.
never really made enemies other than
Yeah.
Cass.
Yeah, no, you're right. And honestly, he probably needs to win out to be able to
Hmm.
like he might be able to shake it up at 5 if that 4 really shatters well. Um But I think even Tony could get people to be like, "Yo, Spencer is a threat. You got to get him out. Got to take him out."
Yeah.
Because that'd make sense. All right. Let's go Survivor press conference. You got any question for Jeff or Survivor?
My question is for Woo, and I would
Mm,
say, Woo, at this point in the game, do you feel like you've made any moves yet whatsoever?
yeah.
Any, I guess I could say any big moves because I mean everybody's made moves, but
Right.
because
Anything?
it just seems like he hasn't done anything, and I wonder like if he thinks he's playing a good game.
Yeah. And you saying that to him would be the wake up call for him to go. Or I mean, this happens sometimes in Survivor too, where people think that they made a bunch of moves. And then
Hmm.
by the end, it's like clear that they weren't. And then the jury's like, no, you were coattail riding. People
Yeah.
sometimes didn't realize that they were coattail riding. I mean, yeah, you got to wonder if that's where it
Hmm.
was at too. My question is for Jeff, and it does have to do with that little moment after the immunity challenge. Is him saying, "Hey, you were one off." Did he say
Yeah.
that? So my question is, did you say that because you knew Tosh was going home and you want to really just lay it on thick of that's how
Ooh.
close you were? Or is that something that no, we would have thrown that in anyway because it is crazy that she
Yeah.
got that close.
Hmm.
Because I do think they lean into certain things like that, like key moments where it's like,
Okay.
oh, you barely missed the challenge, or you didn't talk to this person,
Hmm.
and this one conversation happened. Is that one thing that they wanted to highlight as like, let's add that in because that'll
Yeah.
help the story? I'm curious, and maybe he would be like, or maybe the stats would say otherwise. If it's like every time they do say that, the person goes home. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes I've noticed that where it's like.
Yeah. They'd probably be pretty high percentage.
Or like if he's at tribal and he's like, hey, do you think you're going home tonight? And they say like, oh, no way, Jeff, I believe in trust and loyalty.
Yeah, they almost always go home.
Right. So it's a little mix of that, the producing side of it. All right, what is the name of the episode that we will rename this episode? It is Havoc to Reek, which was said
Hmm.
by Tash, which she really didn't cause much. She tried a little bit, but
Yeah.
didn't
I
make
went
enough.
with fighting like cats and dogs, which Spencer says
Mm,
kind of a little bit towards the beginning, just
yeah.
talking about Cass and Tony going back and forth.
Nice. I like it. I like it. I'm gonna go with it had to do with the back and forth. Tony said, "Never self destruct, my honey. Never self destruct."
That's good.
I think it's a good one. Stay cool, stay calm out on those
Hmm.
islands. Make good choices. So,
Yeah,
all right, dude. Good episode. I think we got two left.
two more,
And
almost to
we're
the
there.
end.
Final five. I'm ready. I know how this plays out. I'm starting to remember how it
Hmm.
plays out, and I'm excited to take it in
Yeah,
again. All right. Well, we'll be back for the next episode. See you next time.
we'll see you guys.